The media industry is preparing for layoffs. According to reporting by Axios, more than 3,000 jobs have been cut this year and more are coming. Just last week, the new head of CNN, Chris Licht, warned staff that there could be more layoffs starting next month.
Meanwhile, questions surround the new direction of CNN. According to the Financial Times, CEO Chris Licht plans to take the media outlet back to its roots. According to Warner Chief Executive David Zaslav, Licht wants the new CNN to be fighting for journalism first. Licht told the Financial Times, quote, "One of the biggest misconceptions about my vision is that I want to be vanilla, that I want to be centrist. That's BS. You have to be compelling. You have to have edge. In many cases, you take a side. Sometimes you just point out uncomfortable questions, but either way, you don't see it through a lens of left or right." Now, not seeing it through a lens of left or right, is he saying that he is basically tacitly admitting that he's a centrist, or do you think he has some understanding of the kind of top-down dynamics that I think make a lot of shows like ours and some of the more populist right and populist left shows so appealing to people?
Yeah, I don't know if he gets it. I mean, he's correct that CNN needed some, course correction, I guess, to attract a larger audience from just this very, kind of one-sided or perceived to be very sort of progressive in an anti-Trump kind of way without being really particularly left, that was not capturing a lot of viewers. I mean, I try to say, even when I describe our own project, right, we're not squishy, centrist, moderate or something. We have very strong views, but because we feature a range of strong views from you being very much a person of the left to some of the other hosts that have different perspectives on things, and I think we have balance overall, but that's like on the average. That's not because everyone is a balanced, moderate, middle of the road person. In fact, very very few people feel that way. Maybe on some issues people feel differently, but when you bring everyone together, you're representing the range of strong views that the people feel, and that makes for compelling television. He was kind of saying that, and then he veered off when he said, well, it's not going to be left or right, but you need people on the left and you need people on the right if you're going to talk about things that matter to the American people, because a lot of the American people are on the left or are on the right, or are on the left or the right on some issues and not others, because we're scrambling what all these categories mean. What does it even mean to be on the right on economics now? It means something completely different than it meant 20 years ago, and it's not even clear. I don't know if I fall on the right on some of these things. It's not, and then on other things I absolutely do. So it's important to talk it through, but maybe that he's even thinking in those terms is, I don't know if it's a good sign or not. Maybe it's a bad sign.
Yeah, I will say that I was enjoying their midterm election coverage as I was flipping through the channels. But the thing that I think that most of these mainstream stations still don't get is that their version of ideological diversity is bringing on a bunch of never Trump Republican, right. Michael Steele, Liz Cheney types to fill their panels, and to bring a bunch of never Bernie liberals on who consider Hakeem Jeffries to be a true progressive and who will never mount any real criticism of the Democratic Party. And what you realize very quickly is that those people have the exact same worldview. You see this on The View, right, with Navarro and Whoopi Goldberg having ostensibly no disagreement between them, and occasionally you'll get Alyssa saying something from the right. She's probably got the most distinctive political view on that panel by far. But all of these, the liberals are very much, and I include Navarro and with the liberals, because it's basically this very centrist, moderate worldview. And even with someone like AOC, who you would think that maybe this panel would be friendly toward, just for mere identity politics reasons, even she catches some heat when she goes on The View, because people like Whoopi Goldberg find her politics to be so anathema. So if these folks want to turn it around, I strongly suggest they start getting some real Republicans on who actually still like and support Trump and who like Ron DeSantis, and some leftists who are willing to be truthful about, good faith critiques of the Democratic Party. Yeah, absolutely. What do you make of broader cuts to the media kind of industry? My sense is the media is just oversaturated. Like, there are so many media organizations. There are so many
And new ones appear all the time, thinking like, oh yeah, well, it's a good idea to do more competing for people's time and attention, et cetera. Like there's just a glut of media. So it doesn't make me. I don't think people will be deprived necessarily of information they need or have a shortage of reporting or takes or discussion. If if some people, although it's never happy, it's never fun when people lose their jobs. But we are in an oversaturated period of time, I think.
Well, I think corporate news might be oversaturated, but the problem, as I see it, is that local news has been decimated, and those jobs being lost over the last 20 or 30 years is what has led to the kind of one-note unification of voice in the news media. You've seen probably that kind of haunting demonstration of all the Sinclair channels that have bought up all of these small media companies, local media companies, and completely subsumed them, of dozens and dozens of hosts using the exact same scripts and saying the exact same things all across the country. And you don't get deep local reporting. You don't get people in their communities actually understanding what's happening at the local level, which has so much more impact on their lives than what some random, Congress member in California is up to. And, a lot of public funding that used to these things is gone. The advertising model in Facebook has driven a lot of these smaller institutions out of business. And it's a real problem because to the extent that there's misinformation, to the extent that we all just got fooled right about the AP report that falsely reported that Russian bombs, it was Russian missiles that had hit Poland. All of these things are part and parcel of the antitrust problem that is a few media moguls buying up all these institutions. And now we have billionaire after billionaire after billionaire getting in the fray and having this other layer of conversation about the extent to which their ideology is driving coverage from Twitter to the Washington Post to the Intercept. And I think that is a real problem. More independent news is definitely needed.
It would be great to refocus people's attention a little bit locally in terms of the news. Is part of the reason the battle, the conversation taking place, I think, seems so bitter. Is because we're all having conversations about everything going on all at once, even when it doesn't necessarily matter to everyone. Like when there's a controversy or something that's local, then it becomes national news. Everybody talks about it. No, maybe it only concerns those people in the community, and then it gets distorted because it matters to those people in the community who have more interest and knowledge about it. But we're all discussing it. I do think though local news really failed to innovate as the transition to kind of online news took place. Like if you visit a local news website, it is so hard to tell. It's hard, like the videos don't load right. Like they didn't adapt YouTube. They didn't adapt all these kinds of things that made them harder to, they just don't work online the way they worked on TV or the way they work on radio, which was a real problem.
There's economies of scale. I don't dispute that. I'm sure some people handle it better than others and that, there's some control that some folks have over their fate. But what happened with Facebook and what happened to the advertising model is that at the time when you needed to be making investments in pivoting to video or pivoting to the internet or whatever, they lost all of their funding. They couldn't keep reporters on staff. And the thing that should be the most important thing, like driving actual substantive deep reporting, much less worry about how to compete with Goliaths like Facebook and the Washington Post and New York Times that could also pay to have their content privileged on these apps, right? So it was a battle they were never ever going to win. And when some billionaire comes along and is willing to buy up your franchise, that is for so many outlets the only way out. And other countries get around this by having more robust public funding. We haven't moved in that model. We haven't moved in that direction. And there are real consequences for people's ability to be informed in their voting choices in their localities.
Well, good discussion. We'll have more Rising right after this. Stay with us.